I've been asked to open this session by talking about why I created CommonGround, and it's a really interesting question for me to think about. Why did I do this? Why did I do this? And there's no doubt in my mind that I did not set out in my career to A, run a business, or B, make software. That's not what I ever envisioned for myself. What I did set out to do in my work began very early on with my own experience of receiving mental health services and being diagnosed at a young age with schizophrenia, being told that I would never be well, being told that I would have to stay on high-dose antipsychotic medications for the rest of my life, and at the ripe old age of 18 being told that I needed to retire from life, avoid stress, and just continue to take pills. And that message was an extraordinary thing to hear at 17 and 18 years old, that essentially my life was over. And for quite a number of years I believed that message, because to me, my doctor was the expert, my psychiatrist was the expert, and he was telling me that my life was over for all intents and purposes, so that my dream of being a women's athletic coach was not going to happen, and certainly on 40 milligrams of Haldol a day, there was no way I was ever going to get out there on the lacrosse field again. And so it was a devastating thing at such a young age to see the horizon of my future basically closed, and being told that this is the best you can expect, to sit in a chair, smoking cigarettes, drinking high-test Coca-Cola, and staring into space for the rest of my life. That was the best that could be hoped for me. And that message had a profound impact on me. And for a while, I did believe it. I believed that that was all that could be. And I would go into the outpatient clinic every week and have a med check with my psychiatrist. And he was not an evil guy. I mean, he was he's a resident at Harvard Medical School, and a very kind man who was in the field, I think, for all the right reasons. But he had been told that people like me can't get well, and probably even maybe thought it would be cruel to raise my expectations to have a better quality of life. And maybe felt that he was doing the right thing by keeping my expectations for my life very low. But I'll tell you that that message, I call it the prognosis of doom, has a soul-killing effect on people. And I don't care if you're a young person or if you're 40 years old and struggling with a psychiatric disorder for the first time. The first thing you want to know is, what's going on with me? And the second thing you want to know is, well, how do I get back to my life? And what I found was the mental health system was really good at telling me what was wrong with me, but really had no clear pathways for how I could get back to a full and meaningful life. And so at a very young age, I rejected this prognosis of doom. And I sometimes say it was like being shot out of a cannon, and I'm still on the same trajectory. It was just this big old no. I am a person. I am not an illness. And I am going to have a life. Okay? And that became the trajectory. And I actually said to myself in the hallway outside of his office after he told me that I could never be well, I remember just some kind of, I call it outrage or angry indignation. I like that word indignation because it has the word dignity at the core of it. And I said, no. And then this thought came to me, and I just said, I'm going to become Dr. Deegan, and I'm going to change the mental health system so no one ever gets hurt in it again. And 18-year-olds get to think those amazing thoughts. And I didn't go tell my treatment team about it, because you know what they would have said about it. But truly, that was the big idea. Now, what I didn't understand is that as I went ahead and got my doctorate in clinical psychology, that I really thought I alone could change the whole thing. That part had to change. I learned that all of us together need to work together in a coherent fashion, filled with hope and practicing leadership in order to be able to ensure that people get the good news that it is possible to live a whole and meaningful life. It doesn't mean living without, quote, symptoms or certain kinds of vulnerabilities. You know, I still participate in self-care activities, but I think what's happened to me as I've aged is that I know all of you in this room do too. No one in this room has it all together. All of us live with certain kinds of vulnerabilities and have to learn to take care of ourselves in really specific ways, so that in some way all of us are on a road, are on a journey. And I think that's sometimes why the idea of recovery resonates so deeply. So why I created Common Ground, in a way, the answer is to save myself. Okay? To have a place to pour what I have learned into, and make it available to very large numbers of people, and then to invite others to also pour their wisdom and experience into the tool and make it even better. So that's one level of how I think about Common Ground. I don't think anybody in this day and age should have to spend days, weeks, months, even years sitting in a darkened room in front of a flickering television screen, smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee. I don't think that that is necessary for any person with a diagnosis of mental illness. We can do better. That's one reason I created Common Ground.